Ben, episode number 28, MetaMentors, Treeverse. Stupid name, huge potential. Let's watch a video.
That was heavily inspired by games like Journey, The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Valheim. And of course, trees. This game couldn't have been made possible without trees. In 2021, Treeverse put out a playtest of a game concept that was well received. It had the look and feel of an original NES game, but with multiplayer. However, they recently ditched that look for a new modern, sleek look that's more in line with what you'd expect from a modern mobile game. There hasn't been a ton of information released about the actual gameplay of this revamped version yet. However, we do know that it will start out as a game for your phone, but will eventually be ported over to PC as well. In the game, you'll start your journey in the city of Elderwall, protected by the World Tree. You'll explore the open world, battle mythical creatures, forge unique weapons, and slay bosses to test your skills. The game is being developed by Endless Clouds, and the head honcho behind this project, Loopify, has described the game as the RuneScape of blockchain games. There are currently 3 types of NFTs associated with this game. There are NFTrees, which will bear fruit for the owners in the game, which will be sellable, and there's only 421 of these, so the price is kind of at a premium. Plots, this is the land inside of Treeverse. There are only 10,420 of these. And finally, there are timeless NFTs. These are unique character skins that are cosmetic only, but will be usable across multiple games, including World Wide Web, a game that Buffalo recently covered here on Hard Fork Gaming. So if you really love trees, then Treeverse is for you. However, even if you hate trees,
Who did this to you?
here's some reasons we're excited.
I'm so excited to try it.
The person behind the project, Loopify, is an influencer in their own right. There's a veteran team behind the project that's worked on games like League of Legends, Rainbow Six, and Spider-Man. They create a killer update post once a month to keep their community tightly in the loop. They've received investments from companies like Animoca Brands and Skyvision Capital, and pretty much all the cool kids are talking about them.
Treeverse.
Treeverse, ladies and gentlemen.
Treeverse.
I like that.
That looks dope.
With all that in mind, we think Treeverse is a game worth keeping an eye on. A release date for the next playtest has not been announced, but their blog claims they're on pace to have a playable game by the end of 2022. Make sure you're subscribed to Hard Fork Gaming for daily alpha and game breakdowns. I'm eFlow, and remember, it's 3 o'clock somewhere.
Man, great video, concise. I love what this guy puts out. Hard Fork Gaming, little credit to him, a lot of credit to him for an awesome video there to get us jumped off. Treeverse, I saw this, I saw some stuff about this game, MMORPG, a while back, and it got my attention, and I felt that I was too late to even investigate and invest in. So I'm excited to get into this one. But before we do, a couple notes, Ben. We're probably going to go on for a while. We love this stuff. We're going to get into it. This is a deep dive into Treeverse. We're going to break it down. But if you don't have enough time to spend with us for this full episode, check the links below. We'll have it broken down so that you can just jump to the areas that you're most interested in, because we're going to cover a lot. But before we start the show, before I get into Treeverse and the story of, why don't I pass it over to you for the disclaimer and also my favorite part of the show, the news.
Well, like every crypto channel on YouTube, this needs to be said for legal purposes. This is not financial advice. This is for informational and educational purposes only. You can watch our videos to get a good jump off spot of your own research. Make sure that you're doing a thorough investigation before you're investing in some of these projects. The whole Web3 crypto universe is risky. Don't take what we're saying as financial advice. Make sure you do your own research. That was a long way to say do your own research. But the news, we've got some good stuff in the news this week. I bet I've mentioned PUBG, which is a non-blockchain based game, has nothing to do with the Web3 or the metaverse. I bet I've mentioned the name PUBG a dozen times on this channel because it's one of my favorite games. And the creator of PUBG, his name is Brendan Green. He's making a new game and it will be blockchain based. I've got this article here that I'm going to link down below. Just came out last week. PUBG, if you're familiar with that game, back in 2021, it had about 30 million daily players. It's still pretty popular now, but it's starting to wane. He's looking for his next project. The new game will be called Artemis. Artemis will be he doesn't want to, he doesn't care what you call it. He didn't call it a metaverse game, but it will have NFTs based on the blockchain and have a very social metaverse-like open world experience. So he said it's not a play to earn model. It's going to be focused on the game. So like I've said before, what I like about PUBG is that it's enjoyable to get in there and play regardless of, I just waste a lot of time there. And because it's such an enjoyable game.
Yeah.
So
Ben's employers have been robbed tens of hours for years thanks to PUBG.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do love PUBG, and I always said it would be great if they would have a playable game like that just incorporated NFTs or blockchain or real ownership into some of the items, because I'm not in there to earn a living. I'm just in there to play. But in PUBG, if you find the 8 times scope, which is pretty rare, it's a great scope for your gun if you like sniping, but I don't like sniping. So it would be a great item that I could sell and maybe get a skin for the shotgun or something that I do like. Maybe a nice outfit, a rubber chicken or a jack-o'-lantern head or something. But the creator of PUBG, he's working on this Artemis, and he said it's going to be less of a play to earn model. So the goal is not to get in there and make money, but it's a fully immersive open world experience where players can play, they can create. He said, but you will be able to extract value out of it. So whatever you create, find, build, stuff like that, you'll be able to sell in-game items to other players. But he stresses that the emphasis is on the game, not on the money, which I think is one of the big things that Web3 gaming right now needs to focus on, is making good games. And we've mentioned this before. This isn't new. They need to focus on making good games and then incorporate blockchain and NFTs into them, because if the game's not playable, you're going to have a real lucrative reward system to keep people coming around. And that usually doesn't bode well for long-term, for lasting around. So,
yeah. It's, what I hear from you when you're describing this is, obviously has a history of creating good games. So hopefully this will be a good game, but he's creating a good game that's going to give you ownership. The making money, the crypto that's third on the list, maybe even further, but that's secondary. It's a good game you want to play and you get ownership. So think of any good games that you've played and then add on top of it being able to own your actual items that you're buying or trading or whatever. That, like, I don't even play games, but I just picture that, and that's exciting. Like I can now I'm engaged. Like I'm competing to get the crap that I want to own in this game. That's why I'm doing this channel. I think that's cool as shit.
I agree. He's getting a lot of guff from the traditional gaming community, calling him, whatever they call him, for selling out. Yeah, sell out, going to the blockchain community. He stressed that he doesn't care what you call it. I think it says it here in the article. He says, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. It doesn't matter if it's called the metaverse or whatever. I don't care what people call it. So he's just incorporating a good game with NFT technology. He doesn't care if you call it the metaverse. He's not calling it the metaverse, but it does have that, like I said, that open social, that metaverse feel to it, and it's on the blockchain. So it's falling into that category. But according to him, he's just going to make a good game. And I'm here for it.
I love that. Here's a guy that's created a game that had 30 million plus users a day, raking in the dough, and guys are like, sell out. And he's like, I don't give a shit what you say. I'm rich, bitch. Mic drop.
And that is really what he's saying. And you're right. That game, I'll scroll here at the bottom how much it makes, or how, a number here across the bottom, because it was a freemium game on cell phone. I think you could buy it for Xbox and different platforms. But on the cell phone, you could download it for free. but it still made millions of dollars a day just buying the clothing and the outfits and the skins for your weapons. And it's like, he did rake it in. The whole company, everybody. I mean, that's a lucrative business. Like we talked about last week, freemium games that are free, that have in-app purchases available.
Yeah.
That's a huge deal. And if you could incorporate the blockchain and some NFTs into it, you're really, it's the next logical step in mobile gaming. So
Yeah, it started with a kick-ass game. Everything else comes together. You build a kick-ass game, people want to play, build it and they will come. Everything else comes together.
Yep. And speaking of kick-ass games that are being built, next up is Star Atlas. They've launched their playable player experience on the Epic Games. They're powered by Unreal Engine 5, and Epic Games is a huge end-to-end video game developer and publisher platform. It's been around since 1991, but massive amounts of users, great visibility for a game like Star Atlas. And Star Atlas, we've done an episode on it. It's the AAA quality blockchain game that they've now put their first playable experience. They're not ready to launch the whole game yet. They are years out from launching their game, but they do have a few playable experiences and they have occasional mini games. So in the pre-alpha game experience that will be on Epic Games, you can select your faction, which is your, what was that? Humans, aliens, and droids or something like that. Was that Star Atlas?
Was it? Yeah. Yep, that's correct. There
Okay.
was like 3 or 4 of, I think it was maybe three different factions.
I think it was 3. You choose your faction, you can choose your ship, you can start buying your supplies, you can buy a ship, enroll it in your fleet, and socialize with other Star Atlas members, as well as compete in several different mini games and challenges while the game's being developed. So like I said, Star Atlas is years away from being made, but it's huge that their playable gamer experience is already on Epic Games, because that is such a huge window to the rest of the gaming world. That there's not really a fully operable blockchain platform yet that just hosts all the games. So games, systems like Epic Games, that's the best way to do it. And that's a good way to catch the eye of traditional gamers. And that's what they're doing. It's a very limited game at this point, but it's great because we're moving in the right direction. And any direction forward for Star Atlas is positive, because they've got a lot of work to do. Because they've got that. If you remember that episode,
Scam.
that is a very ambitious project.
Yeah, I remember everybody was saying this is, not everybody. A lot of people were like, "This is a scam," and no, it's not a scam. And it's great. It shows great confidence that Epic Games is getting involved with them too. Now, whether they approach them or Star Atlas approach them, I don't know. But it shows great confidence, and kind of like you were talking about just prior to this, you're getting I don't know what the right word is. Non-Web3 gamers, non-crypto gamers, regular gamers, they know Epic Games through and through. Like it's another connection that's making it harder to ignore.
Right, exactly. And that's, I think we'll probably talk about onboarding quite a bit over the next few months, especially as the market turns and people start to flood back into crypto and Web3 again. We're going to talk about onboarding, and some of the biggest winners in the industry are going to be the ones that have the platforms, that have the launch pads, that will be bringing people in to the industry. So you'll hear that term a lot. And this is a great start for Star Atlas by getting hooked up with a Web 2 company and allowing the onboarding and it's not foot traffic. What would you call it on the internet? Digital foot traffic exposure?
I think of it as exposure. That's probably not the right, but as an investor, I'm thinking of exposure.
Yeah,
that's what
that
I
makes
consider.
Sense. That makes sense. So I'll put a link. I'll put a link to this article, and then there's also, they did not that long ago kind of an AMA video. It's like 3 hours long on YouTube, But if you got 3 hours to kill and you're interested in Star Atlas, I'm going to put that link on there also, because they've got some really interesting stuff. And when you start to doubt that anything's really going on because you haven't heard too much updates, watch that video. There is so much going on behind the scenes. I don't even know. It would take a whole nother team just to keep their social media up. So they've got a lot going on. It's very interesting. It'll be in the description down below.
Yeah, that's
Next.
I'm sorry. Well, go ahead.
No,
I was
you're
going to say
right.
that we were talking prior to the show about having evaluators for these projects. Their social media abilities and what they're doing, I think, falls right in line with that. Like that cannot be understated. The community that you're developing prior to even these games rolling out, it's a no-brainer. But as we're doing these projects, we're seeing a lot of them are not doing a very good job of that. So cannot be understated. I think Star Atlas is doing a good job, as much guff as they catch.
Right. And another one that's doing a great job is Treeverse. We'll get into that later, but they've got a very active social media and very responsive developers. They do a very good job about keeping the world up to date on where they're at with the game. All of my news this week and the video today is game based. I'm in a video gaming mood. It's probably because it's fall. Everybody's starting to enjoy the last little bit of the weather. I'm already planning on hunkering down for the winter and playing video games. So everything that stuck out to me today was video game based. Specifically, next up, SEGA has they're going to be making their first blockchain based game, and they're going to be doing it on the OASYS Layer 2 blockchain. And if you say, oh, OASYS, I haven't heard of that one before. Neither has anybody else. It's very new, very exciting. I mean, it's not very new. It's new to us. We haven't talked about it on the channel, I don't believe at all. But Sega's got a game coming out. They're going to be putting it on the OASYS blockchain. We'll talk a little bit more about the OASYS blockchain in just a second. But the theme of this game is going to be based on the romance of the Three Kingdoms mythology, using the intellectual property of the Sengokushi Taisen franchise. I think I said that right, but I don't know. Originally published by Sega in 2005, it's a strategy arcade game that was very popular in Asia. And it was like a interactive, almost like a Pokemon Go. They would collect actual physical playing cards, and you'd be able to put those on the arcade game on the platform and bring those characters up onto the arcade. So kind of like the Nintendo Wii. They've got those Disney Infinities and the Skylanders.
Yeah.
You put those toys there and it brings it up on the screen. So it was dual purpose. They were collecting cards and they were playing this game. So it's kind of based on this. You can see some of the artwork right here.
Yeah.
To be honest, my Sega pretty much topped out at Sonic and Road Rash, so I never really got into any of this stuff. But it really is impressive artwork, and apparently it's got a huge following in the Asian countries. So very interesting, and they're putting it on the OASYS blockchain. So immediately, because Sega's just now getting going in the Web3, I know that they don't have a coin or anything like that. You can invest in Sega in the stock market, but I was like, well, how do I get a hold of some piece of the OASYS blockchain? So I jumped over there. It's the blockchain for games. They tout themselves as the blockchain by gamers for gamers, and they're going to almost specifically be ready to go for play to earn and Web3 gaming. They are going to have a token sale soon, but it'll be, I got all the information right here, OAS. It'll be a utility token on their own blockchain. There's 10 billion tokens, but they do not have the token sale ready to go yet. But that'll be something that I'll be keeping an eye on, because anytime you can get a utility token for an entire blockchain, then you got to start thinking Crow coin, like crypto.com, BNB, Ethereum, stuff like that.
Gala.
They've got a Gala, Polygon, there's a lot of potential there.
Utility.
And one that's specifically tailored by and for games, which a lot of people believe will be the biggest onboarder of people over the next 5 to 10 years into the blockchain. It's worth taking a look at. And usually if you can get them at the very beginning, you can get it for a good price. And if you're holding on to it for a long time, you ought to be able to make some money. So it's called the OAS, not out yet. Token sale coming from the OASYS blockchain for games. So pretty interesting.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody, it's got SEGA's name behind it. So something
Right.
got to at least check it out, pay attention to as it comes out and see if they're going to be a competitor. You would think so.
I would think it's at least worth taking a look at, but there we
Road
go.
Rash, that was a flashback. I haven't heard that one for years.
I loved Road Rash. Yeah. And you know, that's when you start to hook up with something like a SEGA, then you start to you have like teaming up with Disney, then you have access to the whole catalog. You know what I mean? The reason why you want to be a part of that is because then you can start pulling characters and you can use, you know, and there's the chance that they could go back and you could have access to their movies and to their music and all that stuff. So when you partner up with somebody like a SEGA, you get their library, not necessarily at your disposal, but you got a lot better chance of getting into some of those games than you would if you went with Sony.
Yeah.
So we got new game Artemis coming from the PUBG creator. Star Atlas is officially available on the Epic Games platform, and SEGA is dipping their toes into the Web3 gaming with the OASYS blockchain. That's what I've got on the news. Game heavy.
Fine.
We've said it before, but it's only a bear market when you look at the price of the coins. There is so much happening right now. There is so much activity. There is so much business and creating being done right now that anybody in the know would not call this a bear market. This is when everything's getting built right now. So
I wish I had that tweet handy that I hit you up on by Bitbender the other day where he was talking. It just, the boiling up underneath the surface is just ready to, it's gonna, when it breaks loose, when crypto detaches or Web3 detaches from the regular market, it's going to explode. And anybody that's paying attention to this understands that. Binance's CEO just talking about how crypto is not a currency, it's a technology first. And that's the thing that people have yet to grasp. That's something that you and I saw from the very beginning. Anyways, I digress. Back to Treeverse. I cannot wrap my head around the silly name with this. I get it has trees in it. So I say that because when I first heard about it, there was a ton of energy behind it when I came across it last year. It was one of the early projects. And I looked at it, and it might have been the first of this year. And I couldn't get behind it. I also felt like I might have missed the curve, which at that point, there was a lot of that going on because it was the bull market was crazy. Everything was, maxed out. But this is a project that has a really interesting and great story behind it. You've got this guy, Lupify, who is an artist and entrepreneur that has made his millions just recently through crypto and Web3. He got involved back in like 2010 into crypto. So extremely early on. I don't know what his background is, but he's an artist primarily. And the way that I take it is he's done so well in the Web3 crypto market that he decided to kind of go in and start creating this game Treeverse. And he paired up with some amazing artists, some devs. It started out extremely small and then it just grew from there. Well, this project caught on like wildfire. And so this Lupify is essentially, people are even calling him an influencer in his own right. He's just very straightforward. He just kind of calls it as it is. He's not worried about it. He's trying to build something that stands out amongst itself. He's a true artist. And I guess what I'm trying to say is I always enjoy when you have somebody that comes from a different genre into another one and is not playing by the rules of that typical genre. Everybody's like, hey, these are the rules. You got to fall in line. And he's like, nah, I don't think so. We're going to do it different. And that's basically what he's doing with Treeverse. And so they start this Treeverse. end of last year. They've come a long way. And initially, let me slide over to this next slide here. Come on, here we go. So you got Treeverse, this top-down open world MMORPG, very popular. Obviously, we're in the gaming mode right now, so we're talking a lot about that. And it's all built around trees. But what's interesting, let me see if I can find it here, is originally when it started, the graphics were nothing like it is now. So the original graphics were this 2D megapixel, and I credit it to not being a gamer, but everybody was super hyped about these graphics. And one of the big things about it when I was investigating this project early on, like at the beginning of this year, was the fact that you could buy your own plot of land that was, you had a house on it, and then you could put up your own NFTs, all sorts of stuff within this house, which seemed really similar to what like Decentraland was already doing, and even Sandbox. So I didn't quite understand why people preferred this so much, but this 2D megapixel designs is just a really popular design. And what's interesting is they come out with doing this 2D megapixel. They hold their NFT sales. They sell out 10,000 plots of land within an hour. Then they have these other collections. They have 3 NFT collections. NFTree, which there's only 420, which people jumped on board big time. These plots of lands, and then these avatars called Timeless, which I'm going to show too. So this project has 3 sets of NFTs, and they're selling out like crazy. Like I said, the plot of land, there was 10,000 of them, and they sold out in an hour. And then, of course, they skyrocketed from there. So a ton of interest on this project, and they were calling them founders plots. Again, I'm not quite sure why this project was so popular, other than this guy Loopify that was coming in and doing his own thing and building out this project that was different than anything else. So you've got the main guy Loopify spearheading this whole project, and he comes from being an artist, an entrepreneur, made his money in Web3, crypto, and he's ready to do something different. So he creates this Treeverse, and it takes off like fire. He puts out, and essentially he's building, the original platform is this 2D megapixel design that you're seeing here. And I'm not a gamer, so maybe I'm just a little bit out of the loop, but everybody seems to love this design that he's got, this 2D megapixel design. And so he rolls out 3 different NFT projects over a period of time. And the first one is the NFTree, which have some utility. There's only 420 of them, so the limited supply creates a ton of urgency. They sell out like crazy. Then you have these founders plots that come out. There's 10,000 of them. I believe the sale was in September. It was either August or September of last year. There's 10,000 plots of these land founders plots. And I think if I remember right, the asking price was 0.22 ETH, 0.222 ETH at the time. 10,000 of them sell out in an hour, gone. What's cool about these founders plots is they all come with their own home, and you can essentially decorate the home however you want, your own NFTs, basically make it your own, and people are super excited about it. Then a few months go by, and he rolls out another NFT project called Timeless. That's these avatars that are like anime avatars. And you can see this one right here, trying to figure out which side I need to point over. One of them right there. So it comes out with these NFT avatars, I think 11,000 some, and they sell out in no time flat. And so all this different utility that this project is coming out with, and it's backed up by Loopify, started in 2021 with 2 people. They're up to over 50 people now. Devs and creators that are just rolling out amazing stuff with this project. They just rolled out some of the very first alpha, as far as like some of the battle footage video in the arena that you're in the top of these trees battling on, which I'm not really into. I'm not that impressed with it. It's a lot of the other projects I've looked at, I think, are much cooler when it comes to the arena battling and stuff. But I'm not a gamer, so I'm not the probably the person to be, giving my opinion on what that actually looks like. Let me show you some of this actual footage here. Oh. So this is the actual website here, treeverse.net, which there was some things about this project that stuck out, and good and bad. One of the bad things is I could not find this website to save my life. I had to go to Twitter to find it in their bio to get their website address.
That's weird that you say that. That's exactly what I did. I Googled it. I looked for it. I tried .com. I tried .io, and I was like, I guess they don't have one. I said, I guess I'll just go look at their Twitter. So I found them on Twitter, and it said treeverse.net. And I thought, how does it not even pop up on a Google search? It didn't pop up anywhere. I don't know. I don't know what's up with that.
Yeah, and then I like to use the NFT stats, which I'll show here in a minute. I'm kind of flipping screens a little bit more than I want, but I'll show you that NFT stats website that I like to look at. And last week we had Ember Sword, which was number 7 on the list. This is number 8, so they're back to back, and there's almost no data on this project. So those are some of those areas that I want to investigate more, because those are signs to me that I'm looking for to evaluate a project. I don't understand how Ember Sword had all this data on, users and NFTs and average sales. And then you go to the next one higher, behind it on the list, and there's no data. It's hard to find the website. It's really odd, because this project is sold out their NFT projects like ultra fast. Tons of hype. Their social media presence is really good. The art is, as far as I can tell, is really cool. It's got they started the project last year. It's moving at a rapid pace for a game like this. Like, it seems like they're doing everything right, but then there's just these weird things about it. And again, I constantly am reminding myself that we are so early. These roads that we're traveling right now have never been done before. Blockchain gaming, all that stuff. Like, this is a whole new area. So you really can't try and compare it. You got to be careful comparing it to the stuff that we know from, whatever you want to call normal internet, regular business, that type of stuff. But there's just, at the same time, you can't ignore it. Another thing that they're doing really well, they started doing these monthly updates. I've said before, one of, as a business owner, and somebody looking at investments, I'm looking for consistency. Anytime you can show consistency and, in your social media or your transparency, that's a big sign. And that's one of the things, especially in these projects where we're in a bear market right now, and a lot of projects have gone silent. They've been putting out every month an update, which is, again, not a hard thing to do, especially if you have 50 people probably working for you, but it's just something that shows they're dedicated to the project. Let me get over to some of the land. They raised, one of the things I did want to touch on just briefly is they also raised $25 million or received a $25 million evaluation because of the attention they were getting back at the end of last year, which helped a lot with funding, jumping them up to a lot bigger, jumping them up from several people on the project to like 50. Let me share the screen here. So there's several different ways that you can get involved in this project as far as land. You have the NFT trees, which I don't know if you consider that land, but it's similar enough. There's some different utility there. Then you have the Treeverse plots, which are the founders plots. And these were selling at one point. These had jumped up. Some of these had jumped up all the way to like 17 ETH or something. They're like a lot of these projects, they're way more affordable now. So again, if this is, if you're looking into some projects to get into and this is one that interests you, it's a lot more of an affordable buy-in now. So you've got that, and then you've also got the timeless avatars.
And those are the NFT skins for the players. They're not non-functional, but they're basically just an aesthetic. So you can have your player look, you can pick whatever your player is going to look like. And I think it's usable throughout that game and several other games. So you can use that skin to play whichever. Yeah. And that artwork is interesting. Really good.
And yeah, that anime style. And you can see some of these are going, at least they're well, these are actually the sale
Asking
prices.
price.
Well, no,
Oh,
these are
wow.
the
Yeah.
actual sale. That's what I was just getting ready to say. But those, they're not even the asking price.
Damn, that's $90,000.
Yeah. So obviously some believers in this project. So there's definitely enough here that you can't ignore. Another major thing with this project that I'm beginning to really pay attention to is the fact that they're rolling it out on mobile first. And I think I'm a firm believer that that is the key to these making these games successful, is rolling it out on mobile first. Or if it's not first, you better be out on mobile very quickly after, like that. And that's not a secret. If you do any of the reviews or into any of this research with gaming and stuff like that, they tell you that mobile is where it's at. If you're not going to build out your game for mobile, then you might as well not even build a game, is what they're saying.
And it wasn't that long ago that developers who went from the traditional platforms to mobile were the ones getting called sellouts. They said that's not even real gaming if you're playing on that. And it's like PUBG was it wasn't one of the first, but it was one that definitely could have worked on a traditional platform that instead went mobile and reached so many more players. I'm sure he got called a sellout when he made PUBG and he was going mobile instead of putting it just on an Xbox or a PlayStation. So that fella from PUBG, Brendan Green, I think is his name is. I'm sure he's used to being called a sellout by now, but he's obviously at the front of a lot of this technology. So
yeah, he knows better than us. I think we kind of
I
forget
would
that
agree.
sometimes.
Yeah,
We're all
100%.
we're all very opinionated, but in the scope of, I'm still a fireman and selling real estate, and he's been building out games. So, man, that's mostly what I've got. And I guess let me just wrap it up by saying this is a project that I'm not in at this point. I'm not interested in investing any money in. And it's just specifically because I don't relate to it, of what the project is. But I really like what they're doing. Like, I really like the creators of this, the background, where they're coming from, the angle. I love how the performance, like they are getting stuff done on this project. And I like to see that. So it will be one that I hope we'll follow up on here in, 3 to 6 months or something like that. At least I'll be kind of keeping track of, to see what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I wish, like I said, I don't know when they started having these NFT sales, and I don't know how much the NFTrees were going for right at the beginning. But when I was looking into the gameplay of this, if you got one of these NFTrees, you basically plant it on your plot, and it'll give off fruit, and then you can sell that fruit to players, and it gives like a temporary power burst. So it actually, the trees, and there's only 420 of them to give you an idea. There's 10,000 plus plots of land, but there's only 420 NFTrees, or 421. So a very small amount. If you could have got a hold of one of those, you could be holding power ups for the entire game for the rest of forever. I mean, picture owning the box in Mario that gives out the little star when you hit it at the very beginning of the game. Imagine being able to charge, back on original Mario, say 1 penny every time somebody hits that to grab the star. but it's got 30 million, daily players. That's going to add up if you could be,
Yeah.
selling your fruit that way, which is,
Yeah. It
you
also
know,
makes
yeah,
me think of the Illuvium game too, with the Illuvium Zero Land, where you're creating fuel and the game is
right.
players run on the fuel. It's a necessity, and it's like that's what the NFT trees were about. Also, is more or less creating a fuel for the gamers.
Yep. And that's just making it all part of the one big ecosystem that it doesn't make any sense to just store and hold all your stuff. You have to be out there spending and making and creating. And then in order to do that, you have to buy some of this, then you make some of this. That's what makes these game economies work. That's what's going to make this play to earn economy function, is if there's not just a way to collect money or save money, but to actually get out there and earn it and make the choice between buying something or holding on to it. If it improves your gameplay, people are more likely to spend money on it. And if they have to spend money on it, they're buying it from another player, not necessarily,
Yeah. Yeah.
Microsoft or Animoca. They're buying it from a player.
Yeah.
So then that player has more money, then they can go buy stuff. And depending on the game and the adventure and the experience that you're looking for, you can decide, like we talked about last week, if you want to spend a week cutting down wood to go sell wood to make weapons, you can do that. Or you can just, buy some extra coins and go buy your weapons already made and just jump straight into the game. That's the beauty of this. When I was reading about this project in particular, they were talking about how online gaming, play to earn games, was probably within the decade going to be one of the top 5 global employers, as far as where people made their money, top 5. And now that's probably not a living wage, but it was just making money. It's going to be one of the biggest ways to make money in the world, is to get on to video games and play to earn, which,
That's
what a
mind
time to
blowing.
be alive. Yeah.
Well, and you and I have talked about this several times. The world is going through a rough time economically, and if you're losing your job or need a side hustle or whatever, which has become a very common thing, here in the US, having a side hustle, or you're just at home trying to figure out what you do with your life, and you can go on and make a few bucks playing games. Like, point being, the worse the economy is, in my opinion, the more that play to earn gaming is going to skyrocket.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm going to take a part-time job as an assassin on Treeverse. That
That's
sounds like it's right in my skill set. I got some time in the evenings. They have a very limited amount of information about the gameplay. What we do know about Treeverse is it's in a tree-based universe. There's these giant trees that reach up into the sky, so the whole thing takes place in a tree. That's why they call it Treeverse, even though Ryan doesn't like that name. It's very accurate. It's like a universe, but just in a tree. It's an open world fantasy MMORPG with an MOBA style combat system. And that's, last week we did the Zelda style. I don't know what you call that, where you run around and you're having your battles out everywhere. But this is actually a multiplayer online battle arena. So you'll go into your arena like in Illuvium. You'll challenge your players. That's where you'll actually go in and fight. Other than that, it's an open world. You slay beasts. You can make weapons. You can go fishing like last week, form guilds, socialize, go into dungeons, and there's supposedly supposed to be a pretty good story that goes with Treeverse, like almost a graphic novel style backstory that
Oh,
you'll be able
lore,
to,
right?
yeah, that you'll be able to dig into and really follow that story and participate in it, which is pretty neat. So the graphics, Ryan showed us what they used to look like, and now you can see kind of where they're headed, a much more rounded cartoon rather than the old NES 8-bit. So it really does have a fantasy look to the graphics, and then like an anime look to the characters. So it should hit several different genres of gamers that like to play this. Were you gonna say something?
I was interesting on your take on why do you think they switched up, because they were having a ton of success with that 2D pixel, and then they went to this version, and I don't know if I don't know why it is, but to me I was like, did they just do so well and had so much money come in that they were like, let's go ahead and ramp this up, and then they changed it, or
Yeah,
I could never find a good reason why
I
that
just think
happened.
there's only so much you can do with that 2D. You know, like Super Mario Brothers for NES was very popular. It doesn't mean when the technology and the money allows that you don't eventually make N64 world. You know what I mean? Like there's so much more you can do, especially if they plan on turning this into a full-blown open world metaverse, you know, that you're not limited by the 2D and the very blocky 8-bit style graphics. And I think you just have more options with this. And I don't know. I'm speculating here, but
No, and that does make it does make a lot of sense, and they kind of hinted on a few things. I guess I'm. It just seemed very. I don't. I haven't seen another project make that I can remember that made that jump, especially that had that amount of success. And I do have some concern that I think some of these projects that are spending, like that are spending all these years and millions and tens of millions of dollars, that's just allowing more and more time for more competition to come
I
out.
agree.
Like
I agree.
I really like, a lot of times I feel like from an investor standpoint, I'm investing in some of these bigger, longer built out projects, but I'm also investing in some of these, that are rolling out real fast.
Right.
The Galaxy Fight Clubs and the Gala games and stuff.
Yeah, I do like, because we've talked about it, and I do like the ones that are like, we're not releasing it until it's ready to go and it's perfect. But
Mm.
one of those famous generals, Patton or MacArthur, he said, a bad plan
Yeah.
executed violently today is better than a good plan tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. It's
a
patent.
terrible game that's out right now is making money. And, that maybe they can
Yes.
take that money and grow and adapt as they go, rather than some of these that are like growing and doing all this stuff behind the scenes, but you really can't even get in and play yet. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's where my investment strategy will differ from yours, and yours will differ from anybody watching. And that's why you can't make your sole financial decisions based on what you're watching on YouTube. You have to kind of decide, what are you looking for? Are you looking for a
Mhm.
long-term payoff? Are you looking for the big bang at the end? Or do you want to just jump on every new project that's about to come out, ride it up and get it? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's why it's very important to kind of do your own research, figure out the way that you want to invest in this and the projects you want to invest in. Because I know Ryan and I agree on a lot, but we have very different views on which projects we're investing in, and how long we're holding and what we're doing. So if we can't agree, then you're not going to agree. So don't just buy something because we like it, and don't just not invest in this one because Ryan doesn't like it, because obviously there's something here. I mean, some of
Oh
these
yeah.
are asking prices, but 1,000, that's ridiculous. But these 90, 40, most of them are between 20 and 40, but that's 35, $40,000. And look at the difference in the I mean, these were pre-alpha gameplay. Look how terrible these graphics are now. Now these are usable. These are utility
Utility.
NFTs, so
Yeah.
they actually do produce stuff in the game. So it's not as important what they look like, but compared to the graphics that they have now, those trees are terrible. But that's the thing. When they started building it, this is what they were going with, and now they're much smoother, much better. I mean, depends on what kind of animation you like, but
Yeah.
looks
Eye of the
really good.
beholder.
Yeah. So, one of the things that Ryan had touched on was how often these people update. This is what I kept seeing on Twitter, was people were just enthused, because as much as they are taking their time, they are doing everything step by step, they're keeping their audience and their community up to date on all of it with these monthly updates. And they said, these aren't, hey, this is what we're doing this month, blah, blah, blah. These are very thorough, very extensive updates where they're talking about everything. So it's a project that may not interest you, but what should interest you is the amount of social media hype that they have behind it, the amount their NFTs are still going for in this, bear market, and
transparency.
The transparency, and just the jump in quality from the start of the project to where we're at right now, which is interesting. Whether the Treeverse really interests you or not, they've got a lot going on. So it appears to be like an open world wanderer. It says here you're going to be an adventurer. You can travel the mysterious lands on your own or do side quests. So it sounded pretty similar to Ember Sword, what a lot of these are. It's a big open world, but then has lots of little side quests and socializing elements. So the gameplay, while we don't have any real gameplay trailers yet, if it's as fluid as these little clips look, it looks like it'll be enjoyable and playable as long as, the worlds are conducive to that. I know you'll be going to an arena to actually battle. So I'm curious whether the running around just gets you to the next level and then you play the side game, or if you'll be able to interact with other people in the levels. That'll be something we're a ways away from finding out, but it'll be interesting when it does. But
yeah, sorry to interrupt you. I know originally, and I think they're still standing by it. They talked about how they want this game to replace, social media channels like Discord and Twitter. So, and in their original 2D pixel design, there was a lot of interaction with people. So at least in the beginning, that was the idea, is that you're going to interact with other people. It doesn't show it so much in some of the newer art, but that may or maybe is not the case.
And that's something that Ryan and I talk about, that we just can't quite wrap our heads around how a game like this is going to replace Discord. We can't quite fathom, when you see a game, you're like, okay, that's a game. And they're like, yeah, but it's like the new Facebook. It's like, it's going to replace YouTube and Discord. And it's like, well, I'm not even seeing that part. I'm not even picturing that. I'm picturing this looks like a game you'd play on a handheld Game Boy, and you're telling me it's going to eliminate the need for stuff like Discord and all these other social medias. With this many developers, especially from the backgrounds that some of these guys come from, there's got to be more than just a little fun game, like trading card style game. So it's very interesting, but I have a hard time wrapping my head around it. And I know Ryan and I have talked about it, stuff like Star Atlas and this and Fluff World and the AI, as cool as you think something's going to be, I don't think it's the iceberg analogy. We can only see what's going on up here, and we're like, well, that looks pretty cool, but you don't see all the stuff that's going on underneath it. And it will be interesting when this iceberg flips and we're able to see really what this is capable of, and a lot of other projects.
Yeah. I was listening to somebody this week talking about they compare Web3 and the stuff that's going on a lot with Amazon, because that's, everybody know who that is. They had probably the most success coming out of the .com era. And they talk about, it was an online bookseller, and people were like, no way. And then all of a sudden it took over, and then they started doing other stuff. And it was like, it blew everybody's mind. They were like, what is this idiot doing? He's got this successful online book, and now he's trying. Well, he knew exactly what he was doing.
Right. And that's what it doesn't, you don't have to convince or get everybody in the world to understand where your project is going if you understand where your project's going. And projects like that, Amazon's a perfect example, because it's like, this is a bookseller, which now revolutionized retail. It's sending people to space. They're working on driverless cars. You know what I mean? They're the biggest hosting service on the internet. It's just
Yeah.
they do everything. So yeah, I'm not doubting anybody. I'm just saying that I don't understand it.
Yeah.
But that goes with a lot. I mean, I've been struggling with that since middle school. The only thing I found on the Treeverse coin was this very dated page. To give you an idea of how dated, it is a pixel themed metaverse, which it definitely isn't anymore. So I don't know if there will be, it says here it's still on the ERC20, which I'm not sure if I read that. I was thinking this was on the Polygon network also, but do you recall?
It started on Ethereum, and then I think it did. I'm wondering if I'm mixing up projects now, but
Right.
I think it did go over to the Polygon network, but there wasn't a lot of talk about that. I also remember with the coins, it was talk about two different types of coins. One of them was seed and
yeah, so we got the root governance token. There's two different coins. Root is the governance token. That's what you'll do to be able to vote on stuff and make rules within the land. And then seed is going to be like the utility token that you'll use, earn. You'll be able to buy and sell stuff for in the game. So neither one of those are out yet, but those are the two that you're going to be getting in the Treeverse universe is the root and the seed coin.
how interesting that that's back-to-back projects now that appear to be pretty advanced, but don't have the coins rolled out yet. Now, was Ember Sword, they didn't have a coin at all yet, did they? Or they did, but they hadn't rolled it
They
out.
have one, but they haven't rolled it out yet. There were some lookalikes of the Ember coin, but
Yes.
they did not have their coin out yet. So yeah, and that's what, obviously I'm going to say it again, but when you tell everybody we're so early, it's like so many of these, I'm like, oh man, this coin came out 2 years ago. I hope the project will continue, but there's projects like this that it's like, oh, the coin's not even out yet. We're going to live through the initial coin offering of Treeverse, of Ember Sword. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll be able to, like you said, do live episodes. We're gonna buy them ourselves. We're gonna try out.
We'll be telling our grandkids.
Yeah, we'll actually get to participate in some of this stuff, which is just so cool to me because I feel like Ryan and I are a lot of times behind the curve. Like it's like, okay, we want to get into this. What's going on? Everything's going on around us. And it's like, okay, which ones are the best coins to buy? It's like, well, maybe those coins are getting ready to come out. Maybe they're not out yet. Maybe the root governance token for Treeverse, if you look at the way their NFTs have sold, maybe getting in on some of those governance tokens would be a good idea because, their NFT sales are and their collections on OpenSea are ridiculous, especially for a bear market.
Yes.
So,
yeah, that's really the best word, ridiculous. So yeah, a governance token seems like it might be a very interesting or easy entrance into this project.
Right.
When it's
Right.
available.
When it's available and if it's for the right price. I assume it's going to be expensive, but they don't have any information on it yet. So we'll get there when it is. But this is a project that is worth keeping an eye on. Ryan said we'll probably revisit it in 3 to 6 months to see where they're at. It's not one that you're going to want to sleep on and just completely write off, but they've got a lot of work to do and they don't, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that's going on right now. So maybe we'll check in with them in a few months and see what's up.
I think that'd be smart. They're definitely building.
Their main guy, Loopify, I think he's got like 130,000 followers on Twitter. Their Twitter account has 80,000 plus. And if you look at the Twitters of some of these projects that we've talked about, those are outstanding numbers. So they have got a community that's well established, which is definitely helping with the price. But in a bear market, if you can have those kind of numbers, then when the market does turn, this is going to be a roller coaster. Anything else to say about Treeverse, Ryan?
Nope.
All right. Then next week, we're going to do another game, actually a whole bunch of games, but that'll be the last one. Then we're going to try to find either an open world metaverse experience, kind of like a Blocktopia or a Wilder World, something that's a little less gamey. We've been doing games for a couple of weeks. We're going to try to switch into something, maybe either another NFT project or some decentralized finance, something less gamey the week after. But as a good one to go out on, we've got Arcade Land next week. Arcade Land was on the top 40, but it was like down in the middle as far as metaverse market caps from about a month ago. They call this the Vegas of the metaverse.
Nice.
It's got it's got my attention all over. I mean, Arcade Land, I'm in. The Vegas of the metaverse, okay, I'm in. How do I invest? What's cool about this was I don't think until we saw that list, I hadn't heard of it. Ryan, had you heard of it?
No.
And when I was looking at it, we were looking for a thorough project to do to kind of kick off or top off our games. And this has everything that you'd want from a Web3 project. It doesn't have a trailer. That's why I'm not just showing you a video. I'm just giving you a quick rundown. It's got the real estate. It's got true ownership of your assets. It's got games. It's got NFTs, and it's got mining as well as staking of their coins. They've got a 2-coin system as well. We'll go over it next week, but they've got the ability to play games, make money, buy real estate, and participate. I mean, it's a full-blown, very thorough metaverse project. Arcade Land, that's what we're going to be looking at next week.
That looks awesome, and it sounds like it might be pretty early on it still, but they got a lot going on.
Yep,
awesome.
I'm excited.
All right.
Sound good?
Let's do it.
See you next week.
Adios.